You know, it's kind of a Hollywood trope. Whenever they put the word final in the tagline of a film, it is never the final film. Please God, let this be the exception. So Resident Evil: The Final Chapter is finally upon us. God, it's hard to imagine that this movie series has been going on for 15 years. So the final chapter brings back the series star Milla Jovovich as Alice, and she is on her final mission to finally wipe out the T-Virus, Umbrella, and this film series. She gets a message from the Red Queen, the little AI piece of technology from the original film, saying that there is in fact an antivirus. You have to go back to Raccoon City, you have to go back to the Hive, the setting from the first movie, and release this airborne antivirus, and you will finally conquer the T-Virus. Now right away, Resident Evil has never been a movie series to take all that seriously. I don't think anybody really does. Those who do enjoy it acknowledge fully that it's a guilty pleasure film franchise. This is actually like the definition of guilty pleasure. I enjoy the series for the most part. I like about 3 of the 5 that are out, but this is a very basic level of enjoyment. This is a movie that you put on in the background while you're doing your housework or while you're working on something on your computer, and you really don't miss much of the story. So starting off with the positives, I thought the graphics and the CGI in this movie was actually pretty damn good. It opens up with some shots of like this dilapidated White House and the Washington Monument and basically all of Washington, D.C., and it actually looked real. It didn't look fake. The production value on that scene especially was really good. A lot of the monsters looked really good, especially the flying bat thing, which I don't think ever came from a video game, but it looked pretty cool. Milla Jovovich, once again, does pretty well with this character. It doesn't really require much out of her. She just has to look cool, look sexy, look like she's going to kick some ass, and she does that again in this movie. Alright, yeah, that's it for positives. Now, as far as the negatives, there is nothing in the story of this final chapter that really merits another film. There's not really anything that's revealed that's worth watching this for. There's not really any big shocking moments. There's not really anything that makes you say, okay, I'm glad they wrapped this up the way that they did. You really probably could have left it at the end of Retribution, which I thought was the worst one of the series, and it would have been just fine. They try to implement some twists and turns in the story that unfolds towards the end of this movie where you will never watch the film series the same way again. It's these big shocking moments, and they totally fall on their face in attempting to do that, because I knew the twist of this movie 2 minutes in. I saw some interviews with the director Paul W.S. Anderson, who has written and directed the majority of this film franchise, and he acted like the secrets and the story directions that he was going to go with this final chapter, he's been keeping in the back of his head for a rainy day since the first film. Like, if he ever got the opportunity to do a final chapter, he was just going to blow our minds with these story elements. What? No. Seriously, not only is this not a film series that you can do shocking twists like that, but the way that you implemented them in the writing and your direction was just, it was laughable, dude. It was laughable. They try to implement this new story element at the beginning of this movie that kind of gives some backstory to the Umbrella Corporation, some backstory to the Red Queen, some backstory to the T-Virus, and they put so much new information at the beginning of this movie that anybody with half a brain looks at that and says, that's going to come into play later. Now, this is probably the most action-focused of all the Resident Evil movies. Like, they don't really try to go for horror here. If they did, they failed. But it's mostly action-focused. They try to go from action set piece to chase scene to fight scene to gunplay scene, and then back to a gunplay scene, back to a laser fighting scene, back to a laser grid scene. And the action in this movie is edited so horribly. You cannot tell what the hell is going on in any of these scenes. I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating. I don't think there was a single shot in this entire movie that lasted more than 6 seconds. And it really got annoying for me, because once I noticed the erratic editing, I couldn't stop noticing it. I was literally at a certain point in the movie, I was counting the seconds like, okay, new shot, 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, new shot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's that erratic. I mean, there is no flow to the scenes whatsoever. It's just shot, 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 shot. And that really sucks, because you could tell while watching these that there was a good fight scene and a good chase scene and a good gunplay scene in there somewhere. But the editing, dude, totally fucked all that up. Aside from Alice, the only 2 real main Resident Evil film characters that you get that come back for this movie is Claire Redfield, played by Ollie Larder, and Sean Roberts bringing his really strange, hammed up performance of Wesker. and neither one of them have anything to do in this movie. And all the other side characters that they introduce that are new characters in this movie, you don't give a shit about any of them. They serve no purpose whatsoever. Aside from all that, there's a lot of things in the story of this movie that make absolutely no sense if you think about it for more than a few seconds. Alice's entire mission is to get to the hive so that she can get this little vial with this airborne antivirus and save the world. And Umbrella's motivation is to keep that away from her so that in 48 hours, apparently the last of humanity will be wiped out and they will prevail. First of all, I'm confused at how you pinpoint it down to exactly 48 hours that the last human is going to fall. Made no sense whatsoever. She even has a countdown the entire movie. Speaking of countdown, they do the classic mistake with countdowns where they drain the majority of the time, and then in the last third of this movie, you're supposed to believe that everything that goes on takes place in about 30-35 minutes. It even comes down to a point where it's like you have 4.5 minutes left to save humanity, and then there's like 3 more fight scenes, a long chase scene, a staring scene where she's holding the vial, debating on whether or not she actually wants to break it or not. Why wouldn't you just smash it right then? And it also begged the question, when they finally unveil that little vial, why are they bringing it out so that she can take it? Wouldn't they have gotten rid of that thing years ago? And there was another scene too. There's a scene when all of our main characters are trying to enter the hive, and Wesker finds them and he turns the turbines in this little hallway on reverse super fast, and it starts to suck them all back in to where they can't move. They're just hanging on like a tornado. One of the characters dies and then he shuts it off. You probably could have left that on and then you would have won. Again, guys, I know this is not a movie series that you're supposed to think too much on, but it's hard for me to dumb myself down to its level. At this point, it's really fucking hard. I guess in the end, I wasn't expecting too much from this movie, but as a final chapter to this franchise, I at least hoped that I was going to see a little bit more of the video game characters come in, a little bit more of an epic scale in the storyline to finally justify this final chapter, this huge conclusion to this 15-year-long movie series. And it's a pretty underwhelming sequel. They don't even really definitively say at the end of this movie that it's the final chapter, but it better fucking be. So wrap all this up, guys. If you are not a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, this is definitely not an installment that's going to change your mind or bring you onto its camp. If you are a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, this is probably not going to be among your favorites. It's a serviceable final chapter for the sake of just ending this film series and hopefully in about 3 or 4 years maybe rebooting it and actually following the story of the games. Wow, what a concept. Even the best of the Resident Evil series, I could not live with myself if I gave it anything more than a Netflix watch, but as far as Resident Evil the Final Chapter, I'm going to have to tell you to skip it. So what did you guys think of Resident Evil the Final Chapter? Have you been a fan of this franchise for the entire time? What's your favorite, your least favorite? Do you think this was a great final chapter? Do you think this is gonna be the final chapter? What's your favorite of the video games, your favorite character? Let's talk Resident Evil, guys. Put it in the comment section below and we'll talk about it. Please like and share this video and hit that subscribe button. That way you get to come back and see me next time. But if that's not soon enough to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.